I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am very excited today to have a special guest with me that I'm going to be talking to her about her business. I have Jess Arce with me. She is a CEO and a true expert, but she is the CEO of 3D Learning Experts. Jess, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Anne.
I am very excited to interview you. She is doing some incredible things out there in the online world, helping students with some learning challenges. And she has built an entire company around tutoring students virtually to really help them in three main areas. So Jess, I'm going to let you talk about your expertise and let's just have some fun and share everything that you have about your company.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anne. So is there anything in particular you'd like me to share about?
Well, you basically share, what does 3D stand for? Why don't you tell everyone?
Sure. So 3D has two meanings. The first is it's for dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. Dyslexia is a term most people have heard of. That's difficulty with words. It is actually not reversing letters, which most people think it is. Dyscalculia is difficulty with math, and dysgraphia is difficulty with writing. And then the second meaning for the 3D is people with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia are often 3D. They see things in 3D, in a 3D perspective. So my understanding is that you normies do not see things like that. But those of us with the dys's, we can see things from all angles. And so actually that is a strength that we have.
I was just going to say that sounds like a benefit to me.
Absolutely. Actually, people in NASA will purposely hire dyslexic people because we can see things more three-dimensionally than the average person.
That is really interesting. So, Jess, how did you get into this? I would love to know. I know you have said you're dyslexic, right, yourself, but I would love to hear sort of your backstory and how you got into this and created an entire company around it.
Sure. So it was never a planned thing. I was just helping my youngest son. We were leaving Texas where my two kids who have profound and severe dyslexia were receiving services in school. And we were moving back west. And I was going to be homeschooling my youngest two children. And my son's dyslexia teacher told me I needed to learn how to help him in a way that he understood. And since I was going to be homeschooling anyway, that made total sense. You know, why not teach him how he understands best instead of just teaching him the way our society traditionally teaches people. So I was helping him, and then I realized that the program was much more encompassing than the program that my kids had in school. And so I told my 14-year-old that she needed to start tutoring with me as well. She wasn't too happy since she had already graduated from a program, but she agreed. And then shortly after, she discovered that she was learning to spell much more than she had in the program that she had in school. So from there, we were at a homeschool event and I was talking to a mom and she was telling me how her fifth grader could not read and describing what was going on. And I said, you know, that sounds like dyslexia. I wasn't super familiar with it at that point. So, I wasn't 100% sure. Now I can tell just from a 15-minute conversation with someone if their child has dyslexia or not. So I actually do consultations where I can't officially diagnose, but I can pretty much give parents peace of mind as to whether it is dyslexia or not.
Mm-hmm.
So backtracking, I started tutoring that young lady, and she's now 22 years old and just bought her first car. And so from that family, they referred me to another family, and I just started tutoring people, and saw that there was so much of a need, much more than I had time for,
Mm-hmm.
that I ended up hiring tutors to help me out. And so now I no longer do the tutoring myself. I train my tutors,
Mm-hmm.
and we have continual training. And so I'm running the business. I'm the program director, and as you said, the CEO.
Yes, I love it. And she has a growing business, and it definitely is something that there's such a need for. And I know traditional schools are not equipped in most cases for any type of learning challenges, really. It's a very cookie cutter system, unfortunately. But I love how you took what you were already doing and what was a natural fit for you, and even taking those referrals and then realizing, okay, how can I expand this and impact more people and really build something much bigger around this? So I love it, Jess. And I know that you have just rave reviews. I've read some of the reviews that you have from students and parents. And one of the things that really fascinated me, and I would love to dive into this a little bit, is you said that typically when kids come to you, and it can be adults, you also do work with adults. A lot of entrepreneurs, you told me, are dyslexic, which I really didn't understand or didn't know. But when they come to you, you said that a lot of times their confidence is low because they do struggle with reading or writing or in some of these areas. And you said you see a difference in a week. Is that right? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, some students, they see a difference immediately when they start tutoring with us. So very often they have worked with lots of tutors over the years, and they're frustrated, and they just feel like they're never going to learn. And dyslexic people are of average or above average intelligence typically. So they're aware that they're not performing like their classmates are. Mm-hmm. And because of that, their confidence goes down. And so within sometimes as quickly as one tutoring session, their confidence will start to go up because they realize that they can learn, because our tutoring program is so different from that of your typical tutoring programs. And always their confidence will go up much quicker than you will see an improvement in their academics. So absolutely, all of our students, I can say confidently that within a month, they are a new confident person. Some of our students are in therapy because they have such anxiety and low self-esteem. And very often they won't need to continue therapy because the biggest problem that they had, which they don't even realize, is now gone. So we have lots of students who no longer need to continue therapy after they start tutoring with us as well.
Gosh, it's really kind of sad that they have to go down that path when it really is something that can be handled and can be, something different can be taught to them to take them out of that situation. But confidence is a big thing for kids in school, and it can really hold them back, and it can hold them back in life. And I know one of the things when we talked, you said, you really are setting them up for life success. It isn't just about getting them through this class or getting them through school right now. You're really helping them
create a better life, because when they can get this under control and they have the tools and the resources to be able to really get this where they don't have this challenge anymore, or they know how to move past it, they can create really successful lives. I love the NASA story. I think that's really powerful for people to know, because you even have a book out. I'm not dumb, I'm dyslexic, right?
Yes, yes. And I just wanted to mention as well, for me, I didn't know I was dyslexic until I was an adult. However, I didn't learn to read until I was 10 years old, and I acted out. My behavior was horrible, and I spent most of third grade. I was held back in third grade. And so my second year in third grade, I spent most of that year outside the principal's office, because I went to private school and I was embarrassed by my classmates had all moved up and I hadn't. So it also can show up in behaviors such as acting out. Mm-hmm. And so not just confidence, but their whole persona can change just from our tutoring program.
That is really great information, and something that people wouldn't really think about, how this challenge can show up in other areas of these kids' lives. And so I'm really glad you shared that. What are some other ways, Jess, that people can tell, especially between the 3Ds, the different things? Can you actually, most people are probably familiar with dyslexia, but can you explain the other two and a little bit? One was about writing, but can you explain those a little more?
Well, and I can explain all three, because most people are actually incorrectly taught about what dyslexia is as well.
Okay.
And so I had a student who never received help, although her brother got help when they were younger, because she didn't fit into what they thought was dyslexia. So dyslexia, like I said, is difficulty with words. So that can be difficulty with reading words, difficulty with speaking, communicating your words, and pretty much all the time it's difficulty with spelling. So they might spell the first letter and the last letter of a word, or read the first letter and the last letter of a word and mix it up with a totally different word. For example, instead of reading awesome, they might read aware, because the first and the last letter are the same. Very often people with dyslexia will have delayed speech. My youngest son didn't start speaking until he was 2.5, but that was only one of my 4 children. And 3 of my 4 children have dyslexia. It is hereditary. All 3, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia, are hereditary. So that's something to keep in mind, but don't focus too much on that, because past generations hid that they might be struggling, and so people might not know that their parent couldn't read. I had one student who she was an adult student, and she said her father used to quiz the kids and have them read the street signs, but really he didn't know how to read the street signs.
Oh my gosh, that's wow! What a
story. So those, that's just something to keep in mind, because a lot of times people will say, well, no one in my family is dyslexic. Mm-hmm. And when I start asking questions, they realize that one of their parents might have it. So if you have a parent that doesn't enjoy reading, a child that doesn't enjoy reading, when something's hard for us, we don't like to do it.
Sure.
So that's a common thing. For me, I hated to read. I used to read Cliff Notes in college so that I could get through with the reading assignments. I never read a book cover to cover until COVID. So now I host a book club, and I read 8 books a year at least. So that's kind of dyslexia in a nutshell. Dysgraphia, there's 2 main types of dysgraphia. So one is they have really sloppy handwriting. Again, dysgraphia is difficulty with writing. Mm-hmm. So So one is really sloppy handwriting, like it can look like chicken scratch. And we don't actually help learners with that because our program is 100% virtual. And I can recommend a great, very easy program that you can order and have your learner practice at home.
Mm-hmm.
The students with dysgraphia that we help are the ones who can't take the thoughts from their brain and put them on paper. I have one of my sons has profound dysgraphia, and he can speak so eloquently. He communicated with adults on a regular basis. When he was 18 years old, his best friend was 30. I mean, he's very mature, but he couldn't write any papers. And so from 6th grade through the time he graduated high school, he dictated every single paper to me because it was just too hard for him to get his thoughts out on paper. And, it's been a few years and the dictation options have really improved.
I was going to say now we have options for that and technology for that, which helps a lot. But
we had that option when he was in school, but it just didn't work well enough that it frustrated him more because he would dictate into the phone or the computer and it would make so many mistakes that he couldn't remember what it was he was trying to say. So it has improved, and that's not always an issue for everyone. Some people are more comfortable dictating anyway. So we help those students get their thoughts down on paper by breaking down the structure of writing. And we teach them note-taking skills, and these skills they can use for the rest of their lives. I use the skills that I gained from teaching that class when I write. And like you mentioned, I wrote a book, and I've also been a cooperative writer or a collaborative writer in another book, and I'm about to be a collaborative writer in a third book. So I use those tools in my everyday life. And then the third thing is dyscalculia, and that's difficulty with math, calculating. And people with dyscalculia, it's like a foreign language to them. And one of the things that makes math really hard for people with dyslexia and dyscalculia is that the arbitrary information in math is just, it doesn't stick with them. So, for example, 4 times 6 equals 24. Those are arbitrary numbers to a person with dyscalculia. It doesn't make sense. So they just can't retain that information. So when we're teaching our students math, we teach them stories that make it easier for them to remember. So one of the stories that we use is the 6th grade class played musical chairs for 24 hours. And they're looking at a picture of these 6th graders going around a chair. And that helps them remember that 6 times 4 equals 24. 24 divided by 4 equals 6. And so within about a week, they are able to remember the harder math facts that they struggled to memorize for months or years even.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so very often our students with dyscalculia and dyslexia, because they very often overlap, they'll count on their fingers. They can be in high school still counting on their fingers, which is really embarrassing. And so then they try to count under the table, and it takes them a really long time. So we teach them a touch point system that they can count on the paper instead of their fingers, and it goes much faster. And after a while, they don't need to use that system anymore because they've locked in that information. And so we say that our program goes up to junior high school because or up to pre-algebra, I'm sorry, which is junior high school
Mhm.
in most cases. Because when I was tutoring, I was only comfortable going up to pre-algebra. However, I have an amazing math tutor who can take the students using the programs that we use all the way up to calculus. So most of our students will stop at the end of what is the state requirement, because if you enjoy something, why are you going to keep doing it?
Yeah.
But that's an option available.
Oh my gosh, this is such great information for people that maybe, this hasn't been in their family or they're not aware of it. One of the things that really struck me is that you said, it's hereditary a lot of times. And I don't think people would think about that. And even the story you shared about, the man having his kids read the signs, those are some really important things for people to know, because a lot of times people may not realize why their child is struggling or what's going on. And so to take a deeper look at that, can you give us some things to look for in a child, or can you share with my audience things that they can look for that could, really kind of tip them off that this might be an issue in one of those areas or the other?
Yeah, I can definitely give you, tell you a couple of things. And also, if any of your listeners would like, we can give them a link to fill out a checklist, which will give them some clarity. And if they see at least 3 items on the checklist, then they personally or their child probably has dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. And we also have a checklist for scotopic syndrome, which is where the reversal and the things moving on the paper, that's what that is. It's scotopic syndrome or Erland syndrome. And like I said before, many people think that's dyslexia, but it is not. So some of the signs, I'll just kind of throw them all together, but
Sure.
Struggling with multiplication, struggling with algebra, sloppy handwriting, the ability to read or write is not equal to the intellectual abilities of the learner. They might memorize their spelling words for a spelling test, and they have to work really hard on practicing them with their parents, and they memorize them for the test, but then when they do the review a couple of weeks later, it's like they've never seen that.
They didn't retain it. Yeah.
And so it's like a brand new list to these learners. Homework takes a really long time. And let's see, like I said, delayed speech. So this is not very common anymore, but struggle to tie their shoelaces. Nowadays, kids
Now they have Velcro.
Yeah.
Everything's Velcro.
So that's not as much of a determinant. But when my kids were young and I would survey people, that was something that like almost every dyslexic parent of a dyslexic child I talked to said that their child had such a hard time mastering tying their shoelaces because just the fine motor skills were not developed.
Interesting.
That's another thing. Fine motor skills aren't developed.
Okay.
Reversals later on after 3rd grade. What else?
And you do have a list on your website too, I think, don't you? It seems like, or where did I saw a list somewhere.
Yeah, you probably did see it on the website. We just revamped our website, and so I'm not 100% sure what's still up there and what's not. But
it's loaded with information though. And I do want to point out too, Jess does have a YouTube channel. I watched a YouTube video where she's actually demonstrating is it the touch point you said? The touch point on numbers?
I don't know if there's a video on that.
I
but
saw it. Yes, where you're actually demonstrating it. I thought it was really fascinating. I'd never seen that before. So I've
never seen that video before either.
Well, you were in it, and we just put out content and then we forget what we put out. But no, it's actually a really fascinating video. And then also she does have a Facebook page. She's very active on Facebook. I know she's getting more and more active on LinkedIn, but in her Facebook business page, it's really interesting. A lot of different pictures and graphics and things like that really share what dyslexic sees, and then here's what the normal person sees. And I just found all of that really fascinating. So you can go check any of those things out. She's got a lot of resources out there, but there's no reason anymore for kids to struggle with these things. There are experts like you and your company out there who are making a difference and really trying to help these kids move forward and have success in life. And those days are gone, right? When people tried to hide it.
Absolutely. And actually, like you said, we have helped some adults as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we had during COVID, one of our students, she had a very high position in the company that she worked for, but she wanted to fine tune her skills and become more confident to read out loud to other people. Mm-hmm. And so the nice thing is, if you are an adult who is struggling, who wants to improve, it doesn't take as long for an adult to get through our program as it does a second grader. So the older the students are, the quicker they progress. And on average, our students will improve 2 to 3 years in their reading level in 1 year's time.
That's amazing.
And these are students who are usually 2 and 3 years, sometimes 5 years behind grade level. So, I mean, it's really amazing when they're just falling farther behind before they came to us, and then they start skipping forward so much quicker.
Oh, that is incredible. That's awesome. There's no reason why people should not invest in something like this for their child's future. Or even, like you said, you could even be a high level professional, but where is it maybe holding you back in your life or in your career that you don't improve the skills? And maybe you didn't have all these things available way back when, right? And so now these things are available to help people keep improving. And I just love what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And I'm so thankful that there are people out there like you who are making such an impact, and that, again, the old days of kids having to struggle and do these things, and even parents trying to teach them. And I can't even imagine the dynamic in a family on homework time, for example, or these kids bring home tests, or fighting to not want to go to school because of all of these things that are so fixable.
Yeah. My youngest son, I used to, when he'd go to bed at night after hours of trying to do his homework, I would finish his homework for him with my left hand. Because it was just easier to do that than, keep him up way past his bedtime trying to finish his homework.
Yes.
And it really wasn't benefiting him to get it done because he wasn't absorbing it.
Right. Well, I'm so grateful. Anything else, Jess, that you want to share? First of all, you can find her on LinkedIn. The name of her company is 3D Learning Experts. Again, she's on Facebook. She has a YouTube channel. They have a website, and there's not going to be it's not going to be hard to find her, but we will also make sure that we post some information with this live so that you can reach out to her as well and grab her checklist, or she's got other resources and other things too. But you do just a call with people just to see where your services can help them, or if they can help them, right? You offer that free.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, within the first 15 minutes, I can usually determine if it's dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, or if it's something else. Very often I can make recommendations of how they can continue their search, because a lot of times parents don't have any clue where to start.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can only help with those 3 primary things. But I've been around the block long enough to be able to help people know which direction to go. And I just wanted to add that my book, I'm Not Dumb, I'm Dyslexic, is available on Amazon, and it has great resources. It's written in very simple, plain English, because I know that very often parents of kids with dyslexia have dyslexia themselves, and so reading is a challenge. And a lot of the dyslexia books that are out there are written by people who are not dyslexic, and they're hard to read. So, you can pick up my book on a digital download, paperback, or an audio version, and listen to it and learn more and get some tips about how to work with your dyslexia or your learner's dyslexia.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Definitely reach out to Jess. I know she does a fantastic job with it. Her tutors are excellent. Her company is excellent. So don't struggle with this, or don't allow this to go on in your family. If this is happening, there's no reason for it. Your child might be the next person in NASA, right? So get this under control for them now. And we're not equipped to do this on our own in most cases, right? And even if there are programs out there, it's not the same as hiring experts to help your child. And as an adult, as a parent, it's hard to teach your own kids anyway, right?
Oh, absolutely. When I used to teach my youngest son,
It's not fun.
He was the last student of my day, because I would stress out so much working with him, and I didn't want to pass that anxiousness on to my students. So yeah, it's a lot easier to pass that task on to someone else.
And I think I just want to add too, because I think there is a component sometimes of people embarrassment, or feeling a bit shamed, and this is nothing to feel embarrassed about. It's just part of a physical thing that someone can't help, right?
Well, one of the things way I like to explain it to people is like basketball. Some kids are just like great at playing basketball. They can get on the court for the first time and bounce that ball and shoot it and get it in the hoop. And then there's other kids who can bounce the ball and it doesn't go into the hoop at all. And so they hire a coach to help their child become a better basketball player. And reading and spelling and math are all skills that some people are just better at than others. And unfortunately, our society has said everyone should be great at all of these things.
I love you bringing this up. Yes.
Yeah, but none of that is natural, and we are all different individuals with different strengths. And so when people can realize that, it relieves a lot of the burden that parents feel that they're failures because they didn't teach their children. And unfortunately, a lot of times teachers add to that guilty feeling, because they'll tell the parents, you're not reading with them enough, you're not doing enough. And it's not that they're not doing enough. They just need to be taught differently.
And I think that's the important point right there.
Yeah. And teachers, regular school teachers, don't know how to teach differently. I paid regular school teachers to tutor my daughter for 3 years before I knew she had dyslexia, and it never helped. It didn't improve her skills at all until she got the right kind of teaching.
That is so important for people to understand and for people to know. And yeah, sometimes the things parents will invest in their kids, but the life skills, the things that are really going to make a difference in their life, sometimes get put on the back burner, or they just don't know. They're just not aware. So that was the whole reason to have Jess on here. I want to make people aware. And I also found it fascinating when she talked about high-level professionals, and she talked about entrepreneurs that also they've made it through, they've even been successful, but there's still areas where if they improved, I mean, who knows what could be accomplished or how much easier things could be for them. In a way, you're making things harder when you don't get these skills, right?
Absolutely. I consider my dyslexic superpower my entrepreneurialism. And 45% of CEOs and entrepreneurs are dyslexic. So,
45%?
yeah.
That's amazing. I had no idea about that. So that's why she's on here, because she's the expert. I just knew this would be such an interesting topic and something that would be so interesting for people to learn and start being aware of these differences, and also aware that there is help out there. You don't have to do this alone, or your child doesn't have to do this alone. So Jess, thank you. It has been so much fun having you on here. Thanks for sharing your expertise.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on, Anne.
Absolutely. And everyone, please reach out to her and get her support, get her help, or have a conversation with her. If you know someone, pass this information on. Or if it is in your own family, then reach out to her and just have that conversation. I know you'll get so much from that. So Jess, thanks again for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone. I hope you found this interesting. And go get her book also on Amazon. So have an amazing day. And until next time, I'm Ann Carden, and this is Jess Arce signing off.
If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business, and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.